Good morning, everyone. This is Grace Stevens, and welcome to a new episode 8 of Mornings with Grace. You can see in the background, I'm still kind of hooked on my trip to Disney World a few weeks ago, and the colors of Spaceship Earth, the big geodesic dome lit up at night is just so marvelous and wonderful. So today's where I'm going to be spending my day around there, and I hope you join us. If you've been watching Mornings with Grace, the last episode 7 with Robbie Samuels, Run Robbie Run, was incredibly inspiring. And I was so inspired. Robbie talked about how he got into running, but in general, Robbie shared with us the idea of how do we set goals and how do we make commitments in life. And it was something that I really didn't expect how much all of that sunk in me and really made me want to look in my future and what kind of commitments I'm willing to make myself. And Robbie said he became a runner just a couple of months ago and has been doing a 5K every month. And I, at my ripe old age now of 72, have never been a distance runner, and over the past few years I found it farther and farther to get my breath and catch my breath. But I decided I'm going to go give it a try. So at the gym, I've been now, instead of walking on the treadmill, I've been starting to at least take a couple of minute stretches of jogging on the treadmill. And I've been doing it. I've been doing it now for a week and a half, and I'm able to cut a couple of seconds off my mile time. That is a mix of running and walking. And I've started by running 60 seconds at a time. Now my running is really a very slow jog. But now I'm up to 2 minutes at a time and doing that. And I'm going to keep doing it. I have set an intention that I'll do a 5K in 2020. There'll be no time limit on it, but it's something that I was inspired to do by my last guest. And I hope that these kind of guests that we have also inspire you. Now, talking about what we're doing instead of intentions, I decided that I'm not going to wait for January 1st and make a whole bunch of resolutions, but I am actually going to set 20 intentions in 2020. And I have actually made a template of that, of what we're going to do. So you can actually see this right up on the screen. And if you want this, let me know. I'll put it up on the Facebook page that you can download it if you want. I think it'd be great if you set 20 intentions in 2020. And it doesn't matter if you do it, but at least you can have this poster right in front of you and hold it for yourselves. In fact, I have already filled out my 20 intentions for 2020, and it's pretty intense and includes getting new speaking gigs, trips, vacations, swimming, running. It's just so much stuff, but I'm liking the idea, and it's up on my wall. So today, in episode 8, let me share with you who we're going to talk to. I'm going to talk to Tara Whitney. Now, Tara is a woman that I met just about a week ago at one of the National Speaker Association meetings. And she was a first timer in coming, and I only had a few minutes to sit with her and listen to her story. But I think her story is going to be pretty fantastic and pretty helpful and pretty inspiring for you. She also has a new book that is called Hungry: Trust Your Body and Free Your Mind Around Food. So the name of this episode is What's Eating You and What Do You Eat? So I'm going to take no more extra time, but I'm going to invite Tara to join us. So Tara, good morning. You're live on Mornings with Grace.
Good morning, Grace. I'm so happy to be here. I just keep thinking about how, boy, we made friends fast, didn't we? Do you do that with everyone? Are you a fast friend maker? Because
I am a non-friend maker.
No.
And it, on the intention sheet that I put down is I have an item that says make 20 new friends this year in
Oh,
2020. And at the meeting last week, I met 2 new friends. I
yep.
made 2 new friends. And I say, this is something brand new for me. And, the whole concept of doing Mornings with Grace is for me to not only get to meet people, but again, this being episode 8, every person that has been on the program has taught me something. And I know, and I'm looking forward to what I'm going to learn from you today.
Sure.
And I'm glad that you asked that question because this is one of my big stretches. And I'm an introvert, and I'm willing to change. And in fact, some of the things that I'm working on and some of the new speaking things is creating the stages of change and working with people on how they work through that. But thanks for asking that. But now let's
So,
get back to you.
sure. Yeah, no, I'm always happy to talk about
Yeah.
myself. Well, and I also, one of the things that I love is having really deep and rich conversations. And even though we've talked a couple times, like you are so open to that. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation. So I am a transformational coach and I work with women in moving beyond emotional eating and overeating. So I essentially support them in recreating a new relationship with food and their body. And and I don't do that by offering them what to eat and giving them a plan around certain foods that maybe they should be eating, because there's plenty of people out there that might know what to do around that. But actually, I think the most important piece is that I believe that our bodies really know what kind of foods serve us best. And we live in a culture where we often look outside of ourselves. We consult our physicians, we consult textbooks, we consult maybe online programs, we consult Instagram gurus, and we even consult Pinterest memes around what we think we should be eating and not eating. And I think the reality is that when we turn our attention inside and really connect with our bodies, I think our bodies has that just beautiful wisdom around what serves us best around food. And I think that when we are on that path of really exploring the connection that we have with our body and understanding what food serves us best, I think not only do we get to know ourselves better, but we really get to trust ourselves.
I really, really understand that. And I know for me, there are times that I will do that, but I think most of the time it's really challenging because of the battle, which is in here, of like looking at something, going to bakery and seeing this luscious looking concoction sitting there, all the while my body is telling me, no, no, no.
Yeah, food has it can have so many loaded elements to it.
Yeah.
And Thanksgiving is coming up in about a week from yesterday. And I think we all have memories and we all have experiences of being with family and friends, and food is at the hub of that. Food is right on the table at the very center of that. And so as much as there's messages around what foods we should and shouldn't be eating, there's also messages around, well, food is community and food is connection. Food is the way we celebrate. Food is often the center of our holidays.
The idea of breaking bread with someone.
Yes, absolutely. Right? Absolutely. And quite honestly, like going into a lovely bakery and enjoying something gooey or sweet or whatever it is. I mean, that that can feel, depending on the period of time and where you're at and what feels right to you, that can just feel wonderful. That can feel really, really,
Mm-hmm.
that can be nourishing at a very deep level.
Right.
It can be. And, I think it's up to our bodies and in some ways our soul and our intention and how we want to feel to really sort out those kinds of choices.
So can you share with us, you know, um, I have so many questions. What kind of people come to see you, and how do you work with them without giving away your innermost secrets?
Yeah. Oh, I would love
Yeah,
to share all of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I So I work primarily with women, and
Mm-hmm.
I work with women who I put them in kind of two separate categories. So one set just knows that they're done with dieting. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
I never want to diet again. I am so done. I know in my bones that dieting doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, look, I'm over it, but I don't know what not dieting looks like. I started dieting at the age of 12. The average age now of girls that start dieting is 8. So 8 years old. 8 years
That's
old. They're
before puberty.
absolutely. Yeah. And so now if you look, if I'm meeting a woman in
Mm-hmm.
her 40s or her 50s or even in her 30s, like that's decades of diet struggle. And when they've come to this really courageous choice of saying, that's it, no more for me, there's got to be a better way, often the challenge is, well, I don't know what the other way is. I don't know what it looks like to not diet because I'm so used to stepping on a scale and I'm so used to having a plan. And I have these rules in my head around what I should be eating, what I shouldn't be eating, maybe even when I shouldn't be eating or should be eating. Like maybe I shouldn't be eating after 7 o'clock at night, or maybe I should only eat 3 meals a day. So there's that group of women who know they don't want to diet but don't know what comes next. And then there's another group who maybe is like, I just want to feel peaceful around food. I want to be able to relax. I want to be able to go to a family event or a networking event or go to a wedding and not feel like I have to plan, not have to worry, not have to feel like if I have a piece of cake that it's going to turn into three. But they're not quite sure, like, why they don't feel peaceful and what it takes to feel peaceful.
Um,
So that's really, and that's really where it becomes, it's really about the relationship with food, not so much about the food itself. And so, yeah, and what I generally do, like kind of the broad brush strokes around what I offer is body connection. So I think that our it's really crowded. Our relate like food and our body and the culture we live in, there's a lot of noise. There's labels like, maybe am I a sugar addict? Am I a carb addict? Um, or maybe do I have a compulsive eating disorder? Or maybe I'm just a chronic dieter and I always need to be like, so there's all these labels that kind of can get taken on, and also all of these stories that go along with it. And I thought, our way back to ourselves around our relationship with food is really just coming back and connecting with our body. And it's really that simple. And if we can be listening and honoring our body and really listening to the signals, then we can maybe let go of a lot of the stories and the labels we've created for ourselves and really start fresh, or really start with what was life like when we never dieted to begin with, like when we knew we could leave the kitchen table with some food on our plate, or
yeah.
take a few bites of something and say, you know what, I'm good. I'm good with that. I'm gonna either save that for later or just toss it in the trash and feel that instinctive. around what to eat and how much to eat.
You know, it. What you're saying is reminding me of when I was really young, and I used to have this battle with my father. And my father, as I always remember him, was heavy and had a big belly. And I always kind of made fun of him, which got me in a lot of trouble anyway. But he used to say...
Did he make fun of himself or no?
No, he didn't make fun of himself. He would protect himself. So he didn't have an issue with it. And he would say, I'm never hungry, I eat by the clock.
Huh.
If it's 12 o'clock or 6 o'clock, I eat.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I'm ever hungry. And as a teenager, you know, certainly I had teenage metabolism, but I would not understand that.
Yeah.
Because I was not hungry according to the clock.
Yes. You knew to be hungry. It could be at 2 o'clock and you were hungry.
And it was hungry, or it could be 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock. But it wasn't by the clock that I did it. And he and I, among other areas, never found the communication to agree with. And I can kind of understand how you're talking about listening to your body. And as I'm sitting and sharing with you, I realize I'm turning into my father in that I too now am beginning to eat by the clock sometimes, even though my body may be telling me, no, don't do that.
Sure. You know, one thing to add to that is depending on what your father's profession is or was. Sometimes that is just convenient. You know, sometimes you work in a job where you have a lunch break at 12 o'clock. And if you don't eat at 12, then you're not going to eat again until 5 or 6. And so there could be some convenience to eating by a clock.
Right.
But it's just a great example of how for decades and decades and decades, the message of trust your body and trust your hunger signals is not what's getting widely communicated. You know, even to men and to women, it's, you know, just eat 3 meals a day, or maybe do 3 meals a day and two snacks. Eat according to a clock. You know, I think the part of eating by a clock is in some ways you don't have to tune into your body. You don't have to take full responsibility of saying, I'm going to just let my body guide the show here. So if I wake up and I'm not hungry till 10 a.m., I'm not going to eat until 10 a.m. Like that's something that means like you need to be listening. You need to follow through on the signals that you're hearing, and really trusting them. So it's a shift, and it's a shift that I think is so important that we make. Yeah. It's so fundamental. You know, in my book, I try to explain or give folks a clear picture around what diet culture has the impact diet culture has had on us. And instead of using food, I created this woman, I think her name is Julie, if I remember correctly. And I said, you know, Julie woke up and she had like blue hair, but all of her friends had green hair. And what she found out is that she could get green hair, and her mother wanted green hair, if she limited the amount of sleep she got. And I created this whole like she worked so hard to get her green hair, and she was only sleeping 2 hours a night. And I just kind of played out this whole allegory around how Julie was fighting herself and fighting this fundamental need, this biological need that we have as human beings to sleep. And that sleep deprivation turned into this external outcome, which just happened to be in her culture how beauty was defined, which was green hair. And I was like, you know, Can we just wake up to this idea that we've been giving this beauty ideal? And the beauty ideal has been what we've been told and sold is that it means that we need to deprive ourselves of food or deprive ourselves of certain kinds of food. And the promise is when we get there that the external, our bodies, will show up to will have a different shape. We'll have a different size. And what comes along with that is maybe we'll feel more loved. Maybe we'll feel more successful. Maybe we'll feel more worthy. But if we really look at that, it just sounds freaking crazy. It just sounds insane.
It certainly does. Is how we tie so many things together that really don't have a connection.
Yes.
And how we are programmed by the culture. And each culture will program us differently in terms of what that is, what that means. And then we somehow take that in and create such circuitous paths in our brains on how we'll respond and act to it.
Yeah, and I was listening, I was at an event yesterday at the University of New Hampshire. It was a fantastic event on innovation and entrepreneurialism. And there was a speaker that said, he was giving some advice to the students in the room. And he said, the world wants to put you in a box. And I was like, yes. The world wants to compartmentalize you into these roles, these responsibilities, these ideals, these look this way and you'll get that. And fundamentally, we're not wrong. We're not doing anything wrong. We want to feel good. We want to be loved. We want to be happy. We want to live a good life. Of course, we all want that. But without questioning these assumptions that we've created in our minds around how we get there, that's when the suffering takes place. And for some women, the women I work with, that suffering comes in the form of food, and the suffering comes in the form of their perception of their body. Now, for some people, it could be something different. It could be working a lot. It could be shopping. It could be alcohol or drugs. It could be, there's a whole bunch of other ways in which that the symptoms get shown around how all this plays out. But it's just, the most important thing is that we wake up to it.
So you're an alarm clock for people.
An alarm clock, I love that.
You wake them up. You're a transformational alarm clock.
And not in like shaking,
right?
But with this like level of questioning around, boy, when you believe that, what impact does that have on you?
Yeah. So when somebody comes work for you, how long do they work for you, with you, stay with you? Kind of what kind of process is involved?
Yeah. So we start with 3 months, and it's pretty intensive.
Yeah.
Intensive meaning there's a lot of check-ins around this, and it's an unlearning and a relearning around how do we connect back in with our bodies. And so a lot of the practices might not seem from the very beginning like, wow, I'm doing, all of these practices. What does this have to do with food? Well, it's because kind of recognizing that body connection, there's a lot of ways for us to connect with our bodies.
Right.
There's a lot of, and it's often a practice. I still practice going deeper and deeper into the connection of my body. And Reiki and yoga have been a great study for me to practice that. Yeah. So 3 months. Yeah. I also have a 14-day program, which is really fun and light, where I just offer a daily practice. And make it one of those like, let me just experiment with this. let me try this on and see how it fits, or let me take the day and practice this one thing and see how it works.
That sounds fabulous. There. Now, are you kind of just located locally around the area, or do you go far and wide with this?
Oh, all the support I offer is through Zoom and text and just email and conversation.
So people anywhere can get in touch
Anywhere.
with you and be
Yeah.
supported by you. That's great. And
Absolutely.
you know, you can't see this right now, but your website is right on top of your head in the videos that we're seeing, so people can feel free to connect with you, contact you, and find out more about what you provide and what you offer.
Okay, great.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, how about your own story? Have you gone through some struggles? What we like to do on Mornings with Grace is help people, you know, share some of their own stories, how they may have been stuck or get unstuck. You know, as I talk about, you know, imagination and inspiration and magic, where are people's special qualities. But do you have any particular story of getting through some struggle that you can share with us?
Yeah, I do. Let me think of which one would be a good one to share. Oh boy. Yeah, so I share this in my book. And I think that this is one of those stories where you always have so much clarity after the fact, but when you're in it, you just don't see it. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, right?
What took me so long?
What took me so long? Like,
Right.
why did, yeah. So when I was in high school and even in middle school, I was bullied. And it was really like I was the big girl. I was the big, strong girl, and by the way, I was strong. Like I could probably throw the ball farther than some of the boys could. I could probably kick the ball farther than some of the boys could. Um, and a lot of the boys that just kind of saw this or witnessed it would call me a brute. And I remember hearing like how much that stung. Like that stung for so long to the point where I couldn't even say the word out loud, like years and decades later. And it just wanted me, like I just wanted to hide. Like I wanted to be small. I didn't want to be and I just remember like looking at my friends that were girls, and it was like this like quietness of like no one was standing up and being like, you asshole, like you can't bully her like that, stop that, like that's stupid, don't be such a jerk. Like, so it was one of like what that's the thing with bullying or being name called, like you just feel separate and you feel alone and you feel like, wow, if they're not saying anything for me, like to protect me, then they must be in agreement with what I just got. And that's painful.
Feel isolated and alone.
Yeah. So it really put into motion this whole, in some ways, this like, how do I celebrate this strength and athletic ability that I have? But yet it didn't always feel completely safe. So it wasn't like, I'm going to open my arm. Like, and I feel like it's different this way now. You know, we've got athletes that we look up to that are amazing, and their shapes and sizes are across a wide spectrum, and that is amazing for the young girls, even young girls, women, just to be able to idolize and respect and see them. But so anyway, so I went through high school, and then when I got to college, I had this opportunity to try out for the softball team. A game I loved, by the way, like loved. And it was one of those moments, Grace, where I was like, wow, here I'm in college, I'm a freshman, I can start fresh. Do I want to be a big girl anymore? And I literally, it was like, I went from being like, no, I'm not going to play softball. And then a few months later, I walked myself into the cross country coach's office and said, "I want to run for you." And and it was one of those where I was like, wow, it was all about like birds of a feather. Like I wanted to be with the skinny, small, fast athletes instead of the strong, bigger, not always bigger for sure, but a lot of them were. They weren't at the time. And I was, I can look back at that now and say, like, wow, that was such an interesting choice that I made.
Mm-hmm.
And you could say, well, geez, Tara, maybe you're a dynamic athlete. You can run and you can play softball. Like that's pretty good. But I think that there was definitely this underlying almost betrayal of like, no, you can't claim that part of her. Like you can't put your arms around her and own all of her, because she's too big. She's not feminine enough. She's not cute enough. She's you don't want to be like that. And it was just this, like, again, like the world putting me in a box. Like I needed to be in that box, and that was the box I told myself.
The world was teaching you to put yourself in that box.
Yes. And I did put myself in that box.
Yeah.
I was the one who chose every step that I made. Yeah. And that perception really, now that I can see it, and I still, can feel it in my heart around what those choices were. And I can't say, oh, I regret all of that, because I had an outstanding season, 2 seasons in college running cross country. But did I always want to be smaller? Was my relationship with food completely wonky, to put it nicely? Yes. It was a cluster. It was a mess. And because I just thought, well, if I'm going to be fast, I need to be thin. And that translated into my relationship with food. So it was just an interesting, so I can look back at that now and say, like, wow, how has our relationship with food shaped our life so deeply that we make those kinds of decisions, those kinds of choices around who we surround ourselves with.
The important thing that I'm getting here is you had reached a point where you're choosing your identity. You're choosing the life you want to live and the person you want to be, not what your body has forced you into or the culture has told you should be. It's you making that active choice.
Mm-hmm.
And then doing the things to create that.
Right. And I think, and that's a powerful, like, I think we should be, that's the way to live our life, right?
Right.
With active choice and clarity and commitment. But now that I know, like, who am I being true to?
Right.
Am I being true to how I'm choosing to put myself in a box, or am I really being true to me?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I one of the sayings that I do whenever I go out and speak and teach or just even meet people, I talk about what I call Grace's paradox. And it's that we're all the same. Each of us is unique. And the idea is we somehow don't accept our uniqueness. And the idea is we want to belong to something more. One of our human needs is to belong. And we somehow get the message, and I'm not even going to be sure how we get that message, that if we're unique, if we're different, which is what human beings are driven to do, we won't get to belong.
Right.
We won't belong in one-on-one relationships, group relationships, which we all have to be part of. But the message is we need to celebrate our uniqueness. We need to celebrate. We get to choose who we are and how we interface to the world each day.
Yes, so true. And I think what gets in our way a lot is this idea of, well, what if they're going to judge me?
Yes.
If I'm going to be unique, and let's look at women's bodies. Let's look at women's bodies or men's bodies for that matter. Let's look at all bodies.
Right.
And do we all have permission to be in our own body, looking with all different shapes and sizes, heights, weights, all of it, and say, boy, I have this unique body, and I'm going to accept it and love it, and I'm going to allow it to be seen without fear of you criticizing it.
Right.
And we live in a culture right now where for some reason people feel okay and feel like it's all right to be criticizing other people's bodies.
Right.
And they're often doing it because they're criticizing their own. And I know I've done that, like put me in that category, because there was a time where I didn't even realize I was doing it. And I think you're really, that is such a fundamental piece to start at a challenge. It's like, how do you, like this journey of saying, boy, I am who I am, and is like aren't, we're brilliant in our own being and unique in our own being, and how can we feel connected to all of the people we love and who love us?
Right.
Being able to share our brilliance, being able to share it, and being able to just let people see us for exactly who we are.
Right. And I have one of my best friends has always come up with the line that says, if you really knew me, you would not love me.
Oh boy.
And that's the idea of how we choose to hide our true selves from people for whatever reason it may be. And that is kind of the work that I'm doing and you're doing on how do we let people, you can reprogram that be true to yourself, and you get to choose exactly who you are. No one else. No one can put you in the box.
Right.
If you put yourself in the box, you've done that for some reason, but you can get yourself out of that box.
Recognize you're in a box.
Yes. That's
First,
so
recognize
fun.
you're in a box,
Right.
and then you can get yourself out of your box.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And here's what I think. There's a body positivity movement, which is so important. It's so important that we hear that it's okay to feel positive about our body no matter what it looks like. But I just believe that our body is genius and amazing and brilliant just because it's a body. Like, would you ever look at a brand new baby and judge it or criticize it or think that it's not enough, or say, oh, wait, no, like there's something here, like hold on. And it's like we're born into this beautiful, bright, brilliant light that really we're whole and we're perfect. And so this idea that like we have to work hard at loving ourselves, we started on this planet fully whole and loved and perfect. It's like we've just forgotten that. We've just forgotten it.
Right.
Like, let's not work hard at seeing ourselves as something that, like, it already is. It simply is. And I think, and it's connecting into that place is where we get separated, is where we feel like we might be unlovable, and where things can be a struggle.
And the work that you do is help women in particular get back to that point.
Yes, get back to that connected place.
That is fabulous. That is fabulous work,
Yeah.
and so needed.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of why I chose to do what I did, what I'm doing now, and it's why I chose to write my book is because I thought, well, if I had the information and the knowledge 10 or 20 years ago, my relationship with food would be and my body would be remarkably different. And so just being able to offer the insight to any woman or a man, because I know that there's some men that are reading the book as well, and because all of the practices are relevant and helpful, but that could make an amazing difference. That could make an amazing difference for them. So
yeah, thank you so much for sharing this with us all. I want to ask you the questions that I always ask people when I talk about our magic as our special qualities, and the idea of taking our magic and getting into the realms of joy and gratitude, and getting unstuck and taking the next first step is when we have our magic, it has impact on people. And sometimes there are unintended solutions when our magic lands on people. So I'd love to be able to ask you, what is your magic? What are your special qualities in the world? And how has that made an impact on people?
Yeah. Well, I think I know how to connect the dots. Like I know how to take to be able to offer some insight around how maybe you're showing up in the world and how that might relate to a whole bunch of other different things. So what I offer is clarity. I offer a lot of clarity, and for people to have one of those like, so that's what's going on. Okay, hold on. What's emerging too now, which is interesting, Grace, is talk about like really claiming myself. Is I would have never called myself a healer, like ever. Like I haven't even shared with you. Like I'm a CPA. I went to school for accounting. I was in public accounting and corporate accounting for decades, and then I owned my own accounting firm. And so for me to be like, am I really a healer? And the answer is yes. Like I'm just really claiming and owning this intuitive part of me, this part of me where something comes in, or I get downloads and messages and kind of, and it's all in the space of how can I serve, and how can I support, and how can I bring someone back into connection with themselves.
I love that.
That's really what's emerging for me right now as part of my magic.
So I love that story, and I love the idea that you found new purpose.
Yeah.
And a new sense of being and a new identity in your life. And certainly that's part of my story. And it's part of the stories, I think, of all of us, if we're willing to take ourselves out of those boxes we have put ourselves in for so long. So it's that recognition. And I think what you don't know, as we finish this up, the closing sequence is with a song that's playing "It's Never Too Late." So the idea is, I think all of us have the opportunity to discover the magic inside ourselves that we didn't even know we had.
Yeah.
And the ability to suddenly recognize and claim it is an important part of our journeys, of our life journeys.
Yeah.
And sharing that with others inspires others that it's okay to do that.
Right. Absolutely. And just to give your listeners and to people that are watching this, I think the simplest way to do that is to ask questions of yourself.
Yeah.
The simplest way to do that is to ask yourself a new set of questions that have you explore a different possibility. And when it comes to food, it can be, how do I want to feel today? How do I want to feel? When it comes to relationships, it can be, or anything, it can be, what's possible if I let this go?
Yep.
Or if like, what does taking a risk today feel like or look like? Like, there's so many questions that we can
Yes.
be asking, but when we start, I think becoming aware of the box and opening it up and stepping outside of it, it requires a level of inquiry and a level of just saying, like, I'm going to relate to myself in a new way by inquiring into a part of me I haven't inquired into yet. And
Yeah.
boy, I can't wait to hear her answers.
Yeah. Yeah. You're so right. A decade ago, when I was going back to school to get my counseling degree, my advisor and my teacher of spirituality, our weekly homework was there's always another self inquiry.
Mm,
We had to do a paper each week
yeah.
on just that question. So
Yeah.
I so think that's such an important part of each of our lives being.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
And
for
yeah,
sharing
of
this.
course, we could keep
Yeah,
talking, couldn't we?
I know, but we're going to finish up. So I'm going to give you an opportunity. Is there
Sure.
anything you want to share or tell people how to reach you
Yeah.
or anything more? Um,
Sure. Sure.
yeah.
I have a really, well, of course, my book. If you live locally, and locally for me is New Hampshire, I
Okay.
have my book Hungry in some local bookstores in Exeter, Portsmouth, and Concord, and Andover, Massachusetts. But it's also available on barnesandnoble.com and amazon.com.
Great.
And I have a program starting on Tuesday, December 3rd. It's called the Connection Experiment. And I send participants a copy of my signed book. It's $47, and it's just like what I was talking about before. 14 days, well, including some live trainings of me just offering up some practices to bring participants back home into their bodies in a fun way that doesn't feel rigid and heavy or feeling like you need to feel guilt or anything like that. Like, just playful and easy, and kind of the way you want, kind of like how you want transformation to look like. That's what it offers. So that starts December 3rd, and I have that information on my website.
Great. So I'm going to thank you so much. I'm going to ask you to hang on the line as I
Okay.
put it into the closing scene for about a minute. We can still talk while that goes on. So thank you so much for joining us today on Mornings
Okay.
with Grace.
It's been great, Grace. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
Staring out your window again. You're thinking about how careless you have been with the hearts and minds of others and the mother you let down. But what you need to know is that forgiveness abounds. It's never too late, never too late, never too late for love. It's never too late, never too late, no, never too late for love.